It is far better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. Of all the names attributed to the devil, one that stands out the most is Lucifer, a name synonymous with the path of darkness, evil, deception, betrayal, negation of life, hell, and damnation. We have grown to believe that he is that which causes us to do evil. In fact, it seems that while many of us choose good over evil, some of us cannot help but to fall into the temptation of doing evil. Nothing is easier than to denounce the evildoer, nothing more difficult than understanding him. We must be aware of the evil within, so as not to fall prey to its effects. When we merely identify ourselves with the good and deny our capacity for evil, we inevitably project it onto other people. It takes control of us as an autonomous power, often clearly visible to others, if not to us. Evil has a character of an autonomous personality which is greater than man's consciousness and greater than his will. When you point a finger to someone, 3 fingers point back to you. As the Austrian poet Rilke wrote in one of his letters after withdrawing from psychotherapy, "If my devils are to leave me, I am afraid my angels will take flight as well. We cannot have one without the other." The only reality is that everyone is capable of evil on their own, and the proper moral position is knowing evil, choosing not to do evil. Lucifer resembles the fauns and satyrs of Greek and Roman mythology, the latter of whom were companions of Dionysus, the Greek god of wine, intoxication, and festivity. On the other hand, the Greek god Pan is associated with the wilderness, goats, shepherds, fertility, and music. There is a general theme of worldly pleasures in these mythical beings. The word panic derives from Pan, who was the source of mysterious sounds that caused contagious fear in herds and panic attacks in people who frequented lonely places. While in fear, we know what threatens us, and our perceptions become sharper to overcome the danger. In anxiety, we are threatened without knowing what steps to take to meet the dangers. And instead of becoming sharper, our perceptions generally become blurred or vague. Pandemonium, literally all demons, which refers to wild uproar, confusion, and chaos, was first coined by English poet John Milton to describe the capital city of hell in his epic poem Paradise Lost. These words have remained in our language and still best define the destructive confusion that Lucifer and his fellow falling angels cast from heaven can cause in our world and in ourselves. The picture of Lucifer is mostly depicted as a human with the face or horns of a goat. This can be explained from the traces in the Bible. In the Bible, sheep are considered loyal followers of the Son of God, metaphorically a shepherd. Goats, on the other hand, are disobedient and difficult rebels. Goats were used in rituals of atonement as the bearer of the sins of the nation, and were let free to supposedly carry the evil into the wilderness. This is where the term scapegoating comes from, a psychological process in which others are singled out and take unwarranted blame for something. People use others as a scapegoat to hide their own greatest defects. This projection often happens unconsciously because of repressed shadow traits, envy, anger, guilt, lust, etc. In shadow projection, one is tied to others in hatred. The lower classes, racial and national minorities, and other faiths are likely to become targets of repressed psychic contents. It is a truism of life that when negative aspects of ourselves are not recognized as belonging to us on the inside, they appear to act against us on the outside. To be accused of something you did not do is painful, and this lie creates a wound that can fester for years. When we do something unexpected, we say, "I don't know what the devil got into me." We say devil with the figure of Lucifer in mind. He is therefore a useful scapegoat in our collective unconscious. The figure of Lucifer holds a deeper, more nuanced psychological significance than mere devil or evil bringer. Lucifer, the lightbringer, is a figure shrouded in paradox, embodying both radiant beauty and profound darkness. His story, often interpreted as a tale of ultimate rebellion and fall, offers a potent lens through which to examine the complexities of the human psyche, our inherent duality, and the perpetual struggle between light and shadow within ourselves. This exploration delves into the mythological and psychological dimensions of Lucifer, moving beyond conventional interpretations to uncover the profound insights his archetype offers into consciousness, pride, temptation, and the path to wholeness. The name Lucifer, meaning light bringer or morning star, originates from Latin and refers to the planet Venus when it appears before sunrise. In Greco-Roman mythology, Lucifer was often personified as a male figure carrying a torch, a son of Aurora, the dawn. This celestial association imbues Lucifer with an initial symbolism of illumination, knowledge, and new beginnings. He is the harbinger of dawn, a brilliant entity that precedes the sun, suggesting a powerful, almost divine presence. But this name has evolved to become the embodiment of the devil, and the devil is all about division. When a community forms, it can be a source of brotherly love, to love thy neighbor as thyself. The devil, on the other hand, scatters and produces discord. The scattering is a sign of the darker power, whether it be the division of communities, families, or culture. Hence, divide and conquer, or united we stand, divided we fall. Rollo May identifies three characteristics of the diabolic, which are as relevant today, if not more than they were in the past: love of nudity, violence, and division. Whereas before, nudity and the aspects of the body were private and reserved for the sacred act of sexual union within marriage, now clothing is intended to call attention to the private areas of the body. The overall sexualization of culture also ties in with this aspect, exacerbated by the ease of access technology provides to unfulfilled desires of lust. In terms of violence, the 20th century marked some of the most devastating events in human history, and who knows what awaits us in the future. Finally, the devil loves to divide. These divisions occur in almost every facet of our lives: race, sex, religion, politics, and economics. This division not only occurs externally, but internally too, as split personality. When Jesus spoke to the Gerasene demoniac and asked him, "What is your name?" he replied, "My name is Legion, for we are many." A legion meant 3,000 to 6,000 soldiers. The possessed man, having been overwhelmed by unconscious forces, no longer has an ego which functions as an anchor to reality, resulting in schizophrenia. In Greek myth, we see echoes of Lucifer in the figure of Prometheus, the titan who stole fire from the gods and gifted it to mankind. Like Lucifer, Prometheus is both savior and transgressor, illuminating the world while incurring divine punishment. In both cases, the bearer of light is also the instigator of suffering, bridging the sacred and the profane. They also served as scapegoats to others. Lucifer is the king of all tricksters, and making a deal with Lucifer is a universal theme which appears many times in works of popular culture. Sometimes the deal is done at a crossroads, which symbolically represents liminality, a place neither here nor there, where two realms touch, the physical and the spiritual. The deal frequently begins with a mortal desiring some worldly good, such as youth, love, knowledge, wealth, fame, or power, but in exchange, he must sell his soul to the devil. This is exemplified in the German legend of Faust, based on the elusive figure of Johann Georg Faust, a German alchemist, astrologer, and magician. Faust is a scholar who becomes depressed because of the uselessness of human knowledge and turns to magic for discovering the ultimate truth. However, his attempts fail. Frustrated, he no longer wants to live. In his desperate moment, a dog appears which transforms to Lucifer's servant, Mephistopheles. He tells Faust that he will become his servant on earth and show him the pleasures of life. At first, Faust refuses. Then Mephistopheles makes a wager. If he should ever experience a moment of ultimate bliss on earth so that he would beg for that moment to continue, he would instantly die and serve his master in hell. Faust, who believes he cannot lose his bet because he will never be satisfied and thus never experience the great moment, accepts the deal and a blood pact is made. Ultimately, Faust experiences a moment of bliss and dies. However, as Mephistopheles is about to claim his soul, Faust is saved by God's grace. Though he was never satisfied and dies before he could realize his vision of a kingdom of heaven on earth, Faust learns to find happiness in progress, not just accomplishment. Throughout history, people have dreamed of Lucifer, a shadowy figure that emerges from the unconscious to tempt, terrify, or guide. In many of Carl Jung's patient accounts, such devilish figures stood as gateways to deeper knowledge, terrifying yet necessary encounters with the shadow. These dreams suggest that Lucifer is not just a theological concept, but a psychic reality, a messenger from the depths of the soul. Italian violinist Giuseppe Tartini had a dream in which the devil appeared to him and asked to be his servant and teacher. Tartini gave him his violin to see if he could play, and the music was so wonderful that he had never conceived it in his boldest flights of fantasy. He felt enraptured, transported, enchanted. His breath failed him, and he awoke. Immediately, he grasped his violin in order to retain, in part at least, the impression of his dream. It was all in vain. Despite having said that the music he composed is indeed the best that he ever wrote, which he named the Devil's Trill, it was so inferior to what he had heard that if he could have subsisted on other means, he would have broken his violin and abandoned music forever. If we are to look closely, then we will understand that Lucifer's fall from a celestial body to a figure of profound evil in Christian theology is a complex one. The key lies in a passage from the book of Isaiah, 14:12, which speaks of the fall of the king of Babylon. "How have you fallen from heaven, morning star, son of the dawn? You have been cast down to the earth, you who once laid low the nations." While originally a condemnation of a human king, this passage was later interpreted as an allegory for Satan's fall from heaven due to pride. This interpretation cemented Lucifer's association with the devil, transforming the lightbringer into the ultimate symbol of rebellion and darkness. This duality is crucial to understanding Lucifer psychologically. He represents the potential for brilliance and enlightenment, but also the perilous consequences of unchecked ambition and pride. The morning star, one of the brightest objects in the sky, is filled with pride, and after its brief declaration of victory, it is humbled and vanishes from sight when the all-powerful sun rises and floods everything in its light. This narrative serves as a powerful metaphor for the human ego, the dazzling potential of individual consciousness, and the inherent danger of its inflation and subsequent fall when it attempts to usurp a higher, more encompassing order. When the individual ego, driven by pride, seeks to become the center of its own universe, it inevitably isolates itself from the collective and from any higher guiding principles. This self-imposed exile, much like Lucifer's banishment, leads to a state of fragmentation and suffering. The consequences of this pride are vividly portrayed in the imagery of Lucifer being cast down to the realm of the dead, to the depths of the pit. This can be interpreted as the psychological descent into despair, isolation, and a loss of meaning that accompanies an inflated ego. Furthermore, the idea that a third of the angels sided with Lucifer and were also cast out speaks to the contagious nature of pride and rebellion. One individual's inflated ego can influence and corrupt others, leading to collective delusion and destructive behavior. Lucifer, in this sense, becomes a powerful symbol of the shadow aspect of humanity, the unacknowledged and unintegrated parts of ourselves that, when denied, can lead to catastrophic consequences. When we deny our dark side, we neglect half of our existence as human beings. Lucifer, as the dark brother to the light counterpart, personifies this rejected aspect of the psyche. Our inner devils resemble our shadow, which retains contact with the lost depths of the soul, with life and vitality, and provides hints for self-realization. Lucifer, in this sense, is the personification of Christ's split-off dark side, a necessary compensation to the light side of God. Here, we touch upon a profound mystery, that Lucifer may not simply be the adversary of God, but a part of God's nature itself. As Jung proposed, the divine must contain both light and darkness to be complete. The tension between God and the devil may reflect a cosmic polarity within the divine self, a dialectic rather than a dualism. Lucifer, then, is not merely a fallen angel, but a necessary figure in the drama of divine self-knowledge. Lucifer, as the deceiver and adversary, operates by exploiting the cracks in our spiritual armor, seeking to create division and inner conflict that paralyze our capacity to choose and lead us down a destructive path. This psychological process often begins with deception, where Lucifer, or the tempting inner voice he represents, promises good but ultimately delivers evil. He whispers alluring suggestions: just do what makes you happy, life is too short, or you obey no one and you are the god of yourself. These are the insidious lies that feed ego inflation, leading individuals to believe they are above consequences or moral boundaries. When we experience ego inflation, Lucifer smiles, knowing it's only a matter of time until we join his kingdom of darkness. Pride, as the origin of all evil, sets the stage for this descent. The consequence of succumbing to these temptations is a spiraling downward into despair, where individuals seek substitutes for meaning in life and numb themselves with pleasure or diversion, often leading to addiction. The alcoholic, for instance, loses the power to choose and becomes trapped in a vicious cycle of vice, where what was once believed to be freedom becomes a prison. This state of being, characterized by obsessive behavior, irrational thoughts, rumination, and self-blame, is a psychological hell. Lucifer, in this context, is an astute observer of human weakness. While he cannot read thoughts like an omniscient deity, he identifies our vulnerabilities and uses them to his advantage. The narrative of the Faustian bargain, where a mortal sells their soul for worldly gains, perfectly encapsulates this dynamic. The desire for youth, love, knowledge, wealth, fame, or power becomes a gateway for the demonic influence, leading to an irrevocable damnation, if not for divine intervention or a profound shift in consciousness. The key to outwitting this internal tempter is self-awareness and a purity of heart that cannot be corrupted. By recognizing our weaknesses, we can transform them into areas of focus for growth and self-mastery. The psychological journey with the archetype of Lucifer is not merely about identifying and battling external evil. It is fundamentally about the integration of our own shadow. The concept of enantiodromia, a fundamental psychological law discovered by Jung from Heraclitus, describes a running towards the opposite. Life itself is a contest of opposites, good and evil, light and darkness, creation and destruction. When the conscious mind severs its unity with the unconscious, enantiodromia will inevitably occur, leading to a compensatory eruption of the repressed shadow. We cannot have one without the other. Both the angel, conscience, and the devil, temptation, are integral to human experience. True integration means acknowledging and accepting the dangerous double nature of ourselves and the world, embracing our human totality, which includes both the conscious and unconscious mind. This is not about identifying with the archetype, which can lead to ego inflation and psychic destruction, but rather about bringing a sense of moral responsibility to the archetypal images of the unconscious. The goal is to find a middle position, to be at the border between yin and yang, where one is no longer at the mercy of the opposites. In this sense, Lucifer, as the personification of the split-off dark side, becomes a necessary figure. He allows us to distinguish good from evil, heaven from hell, and virtue from sin, thereby making human action and freedom possible. Without the freedom to rebel, there would be no ego consciousness, no civilization, and no opportunity to transcend the ego through self-realization. The tension created by the presence of the devil is what propels us towards conscious realization and greater wholeness. The concept of felix culpa, or fortunate fall, beautifully encapsulates this idea. Without a fall, we cannot experience redemption. Disintegration represents the necessary condition for all self-realization. Lucifer, the enigmatic lightbringer, stands as a powerful and enduring archetype, not merely as a figure of theological evil, but as a profound mirror reflecting the complexities of the human psyche. His journey from celestial brilliance to banished darkness serves as a potent narrative for understanding the perils of unchecked pride, the seductive nature of temptation, and the inevitable consequences of denying our own shadow. Yet the psychological exploration of Lucifer reveals a paradox. His very existence, his rebellion, and his role as the adversary are, in a profound sense, necessary for human consciousness and the pursuit of wholeness. He embodies the disruptive force that challenges complacency, exposes hidden weaknesses, and compels us towards self-awareness and integration. Without the internal struggle he represents, there would be no opportunity for growth, no discernment between good and evil, and no path to true self-realization. Ultimately, the psychology of Lucifer is a call to introspection. It urges us to acknowledge the inherent duality within ourselves, the capacity for both light and shadow, creation and destruction. By confronting and integrating these seemingly opposing forces, rather than projecting them outward or suppressing them, we can move beyond fragmentation towards a more complete and authentic existence. The story of Lucifer, therefore, is not just a tale of a fallen angel, but a timeless allegory for the human journey towards conscious awareness, ethical responsibility, and the arduous yet ultimately rewarding path of becoming truly whole. Lucifer's lesson isn't to fear the dark, but to bring it into light. Only then do we become whole.